UFC Fight Night Vegas 38, Santos versus Walker takes place this weekend, and I'm going to go through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event, giving my prediction and breakdown for every single fight on the card, starting with the early prelim opener of Shanna Young versus Stephanie Egger. I'm going to go with an upset straight away. I'm picking the underdog here, Stephanie Egger. I believe she's got a massive grappling advantage over Shanna Young. Shanna Young is going to be better in the stand-up realm, and she is the favourite here, but I'm going to go with Stephanie Egger because I feel like her grappling is just going to work wonders here against Shanna Young. Shanna Young has shown some issues in her career dealing with grapplers. Macy Chiasson took her down multiple times, and Chiasson likes to keep it standing in fights, and she opted to go for takedowns against Shanna Young and just dominated her start to finish in that bout. 10-8 round at one point, I believe, in one of those rounds, just piecing her up on the ground, taking her down whenever she wanted to, and controlling her for, I believe, 8.5 minutes of their 15-minute bout. I mean, it was a real dominant performance by Macy Chiasson in the grappling department, and even against Sarah Alpar as well, who's not really a great women's MMA fighter. She was able to take down Shanna Young and choke her out in the second round. It doesn't seem like Shanna Young has anything to offer on the ground. In all honesty, she doesn't really know what to do down there, and she does get beaten up quite a bit down there, and she got submitted by Alpar, out-grappled by Lisa Versosa in her earlier career as well. I feel like Stephanie Egger, having an under-23s European Judoka Championship under her belt, I'm going to be going with her to out-grapple Shanna Young here. Maybe she's going to go out there and get outstruck. I don't see that happening, in all honesty. I think she's going to go out there, push Shanna Young up against the cage and get the grappling going. And plus, even if it does end up on the feet, she has a 3-inch reach advantage over Shanna Young that she can hide behind. 68-inch reach for Stephanie Egger, 65-inch reach for Shanna Young. I think Stephanie Egger is going to be able to be okay on the feet if it's there. And even if she does end up going there at some point, she's got that reach to hide behind. Other than that, I think she's going to push Shanna Young up against the cage, take her down, and just work her on the ground and maybe get a unanimous decision win by just winning the rounds, staying at range, and then getting takedowns when she needs them and getting some big ground and pound in there as well. I'm going with Stephanie Egger with an upset to start off the card as an underdog. Moving on up the card, Alejandro Perez versus Johnny Eduardo. I'm going to be going with Alejandro Perez here. The return of Johnny Eduardo, used to be a ranked contender at one point in the bantamweight division, I believe, or was fighting ranked contenders in the bantamweight division. 41 years of age, 3 years off. It's not looking good for Johnny Eduardo here against Alejandro Perez. I actually didn't mind his chances in his earlier comeback bout that was supposed to happen earlier this year against Anthony Burkak. Anthony Burkak is terrible, and I was actually considering picking Johnny Eduardo against him. I believe I even picked him against Anthony Burkak, but he's taking on Alejandro Perez here, and I just don't see it going his way at all. Alejandro Perez, 32, still in his athletic prime. He has a bad record, 22-8, which is why there's a little bit of a question here, but he did start off his career 5-3, so he's had that sort of Liu Kei resurgence, where although their record does not look good to start it off, like Dan Hooker as well, I think he was like 3-3 after his first 6 fights. Alejandro Perez, 5-3 after his first 8. I think he's going to go out there and get this one done against Johnny Eduardo. He's coming off a KO loss to Casey Kenny. No, not Casey Kenny, Song Yudong. Coming off a KO loss to Song Yudong. Everyone remembers it. Very brutal KO loss. Before that, though, he had a fight with Cody Stamann, and it was a very good performance by Alejandro Perez against a ranked contender in Cody Stamann, who's very good himself, who had close fights with Jimmy Rivera and has beaten some other guys, and even went to a win or a draw with Song Yudong because of the point deduction, of course. I believe Alejandro Perez probably doesn't get KO'd by Song Yudong in the first round 9 times out of 10, but it happened there. We haven't seen Song Yudong really get a KO since. I'm going to go with Alejandro Perez here. He showed great grappling against Cody Stamann. I think he can fall back on that if he needs to against Johnny Eduardo. Eduardo's only chance is to land that big KO blow in the first round, and I don't see that happening after so many years off. You're not going to be as switched on as you want to be in those early rounds. He's not going to be as explosive as he usually is in those early rounds. He's 43, not 41, sorry. I don't think I'm going to be going with Johnny Eduardo here. He has a chance to get a KO. Perez has only been KO'd once in his career. I'm going with Perez by submission. I'll say submission. No. I'll go Perez by 3rd round TKO, just wearing down an older man in Johnny Eduardo and piecing him up. Maybe a late 2nd round TKO for Alejandro Perez. I trust him to get this one done. Moving on up the card, Douglas Silva de Andrade versus Gaetano Pirrello. I'm going to be going with Douglas Silva de Andrade here. I actually felt like he was going to fall off in his career, but he's still 26-4. which is a crazy record to have in MMA. I know he kind of padded his record early against subpar competition before he got into the UFC, but he's still 26-4 in MMA. I'm definitely going to be picking him here against Gaetano Pirrello. Gaetano Pirrello just did not look like he was fundamentally ready for MMA against Ricky Simón. I know Ricky Simón is good and it's a tough matchup to get in your debut on short notice. He just seemed to not do fundamental things correctly whatsoever in terms of defending takedowns against Ricky Simón. And it's those fundamental techniques that you kind of need to have in the bantamweight division of the UFC. Fair play, you can get to maybe the top 8 of the middleweight division without understanding what a fucking underhook is. But in bantamweight, don't see this working out for him. I like that Andrade is actually moving back down. He's a shredded guy at bantamweight, and he's actually a big guy for bantamweight as well, compared to when he's been up at featherweight. And I'll tell you this, Lerone Murphy's a very good prospect. Went to a draw with Zubaira Tukhugov on short notice, I believe, in his debut, and then beat Ricardo Ramos by first round TKO. He had like a reasonably competitive decision win against Douglas Silva de Andrade, and when you really look back at some of the wins that people have gotten over Douglas Silva de Andrade, they're not bums that are beating him. Piotr Jan, even in his last fight, Lerone Murphy is not a bad loss to have, and he's had some other not bad losses in his career against good opponents. I believe Rob Font beat him at some point in his career by guillotine in the second round, and again Zubaira Tukhugov himself earlier on in his career in 2014. He showed that he still kind of has it in that Lerone Murphy fight, and he actually made it somewhat competitive. Has a win over Renan Barão, has a win over 2018 Marlon Vera. Not the same Marlon Vera, but still Marlon Vera, young up-and-comer. He beat him, he managed him. I think I'm going to be going with Douglas Silva de Andrade here. He's got everything over Gaetano Pirrello. We'll see if Pirrello makes the adjustments, but I'm going with Douglas Silva de Andrade by unanimous decision. In a bit of a scrappy bout, though, I'll give Gaetano Pirrello that. I think it's going to be fun, but I'm going to go with Douglas Silva de Andrade. And Gaetano Pirrello, his career is like he beats a decent opponent, and then his next fight is against some absolute can. And I feel like he's kind of padded his record a bit, even though it isn't a great looking record in the first place, and he does have a lot of losses on the regional scene to subpar competition, let's just say. I think he's padded his record a bit, shows a complete lack of trust in him from his teammates or coaching staff, whatever you want to say. Douglas Silva de Andrade gets this one done in a scrappy decision win, 29-28, I'll say, for Douglas. Moving on up the card, Devonte Smith versus Jamie Mullarkey. I'm going to be going with Jamie Mullarkey here in an upset win against Devonte Smith. He's not a massive underdog, but he is a bit of a juicy underdog here against Devonte Smith. I have noticed a problem in Devonte Smith's bouts, and I'm not noticing it in Jamie Mullarkey's bouts. Devonte Smith has a chin problem, okay? He has a very big chin problem, and Mullarkey showed in his last outing a very good ability to KO a guy who KO'd Devonte Smith. Kamal Worthy KO'd Devonte Smith, and I'm not over-exaggerating when I say this. Kamal Worthy KO'd Devonte Smith with the most pathetic-looking check hook I've ever seen in my fucking life, and Smith went out to it. And I don't know how he got KO'd by that, but even in his last fight against Jared Gooden, I believe it was, or Justin James, sorry, he got clipped in around there as well and only got the stoppage because of an eye injury that Justin James had. He got clipped in that fight pretty badly, and he went wobbly again at the legs. It seems to be a little bit of a chin problem that Devonte Smith has, and I'm definitely going to be trusting in Jamie Mullarkey here to go out there and get a KO. Trains with Alexander Volkanovski. You've got to admit that's a great training partner to have. I think he's really improved since moving over there and having that fight with Volkanovski. He's lost to Brad Riddell by decision in his debut as well. That's not a bad loss. He's lost to Alexander Volkanovski himself. Not a bad loss to have in hindsight. He has been TKO'd and did get finished by Alexander Volkanovski, but I think he's got a better chin than most. We saw that in the Brad Riddell fight. Brad Riddell's got real power, rocked Drew Dober, who has a granite chin, in their fight that they had, and even Jamie Mullarkey, even in that third round, was clinging on. He was making sure he tried to get it done. He showed good grappling against Fares Ziam and actually could have even won that fight in certain ways, but Ziam had a bit more damaging moments in the fight, but he showed that he has good grappling to maybe fall back on, and he's got good power, good KO power, And he's got great technique if you watch that Kamar-worthy KO. Shelled up Rampage Jackson Vanderlei Silva style in the UFC. Couple shimmies, shelled up a couple of times, blocked a couple of shots, came over with his own lead hook and got the KO there. I think he's going to catch that lead hook on Devonte Smith and put him out cold in the first round or wobble him to a TKO finish. I'm going with Jamie Mullarkey by KO in the first round in an upset win against Devonte Smith. Moving on up the card, Bethe Correira versus Karol Rosa. I'm going to be going with Karol Rosa here over Bethe Correira. We kind of know the situation here. Karol Rosa, the up-and-comer, 26 years of age. This is the last fight of Bethe Correira's career. She's wanted this retirement bout for a very long time. Karol Rosa's got a massive reach advantage over her for a women's division. 67.5 inches, 3.5 inch reach advantage over Bethe Correira. I don't see this one hitting the ground in any way. I'm going to be going with Karol Rosa here. By decision, maybe by TKO. No, she doesn't really have that power. I'm going to go with a decision win for Karol Rosa. I feel pretty confident about that. She looked good against Jocelyn Edwards, good against Vanessa Mello, good against Lara Procopio, who was 6-0 at the time, and she's a decent fighter, and that was a win as well for Karol Rosa, even though it was a split decision for some bizarre reason. It was close, though. I will admit that. I'm going to go with Karol Rosa. The younger, up-and-coming fighter. I think she gets this one done most definitely against Bethe Correira. And also, I don't like the mindset of, I know this is my last fight. Karol Rosa's mindset is, I'm 26. This is all I've put into my career. I want to be a world champion someday. I've got the hunger to be a world champion. I haven't made my money in my career yet whatsoever. I've got all of these goals that I'm aspiring to get to. And Bethe Correira's mindset in this one, even as an underdog, is, I just want to show up one more time and get paid on a Brazilian-themed card and retire in front of Brazilian fans. Don't like the mindset. I'm going to be going with Karol Rosa pretty comfortably by unanimous decision, 30-27. Moving on up the card, Antonina Shevchenko versus Casey O'Neill. It's the least favourite sister of the family, of course. I'm going Casey O'Neill here. I think I'm going to go with Casey O'Neill by rear naked choke in the second round against Antonina Shevchenko. Casey O'Neill has got decent stand-up, and she's going to have a reach advantage here over Antonina Shevchenko, so that's going to help her out in the stand-up if she does get stranded there, but her plan A, in my opinion, is going to be push Antonina Shevchenko up against the cage, take her down, wear her out on the ground with some ground and pound shots, wait for the openings, and then sink in the submission when it presents itself. Antonina Shevchenko has shown in her career good stand-up, good-looking stand-up with knees and stuff like that, but when it hits the ground, she seems to have a little bit of a problem. Lost to Roxanne Modafferi by hitting the ground a couple of times, and Modafferi is absolute dog shit. I truly believe Casey O'Neill is somewhat good and a bit of a flyweight prospect. I don't put her at the same level as like a Manon Fiorot or anything like that, but I do believe she's actually a good fighter. And I think she can go on and do quite big things in the flyweight division. Plus, we saw Andrea Lee, 11-5 fighter, go out there, take down Antonina Shevchenko, put her in a triangle armbar. It just seems so easy to do for Andrea Lee. And Andrea Lee does not submit everyone in her career. So, I'm going to call out an Antonina Shevchenko grappling problem. And I'm going to say that Casey O'Neill pushes her up against the cage, has some moments on the feet early, gets her down against the cage, gets her down. And then I think Antonina Shevchenko is going to try and get back up, give up her back. Casey O'Neill's going to get the rear naked choke. I believe Casey O'Neill's last win was by rear naked choke, standing rear naked choke. Or she can go for ground and pound as well. And Shayna Dobson is a decent win. Lara Procopio is a great win as well to submit her in the third round. I'm going to go third or second round submission by rear naked choke for Casey O'Neill. I think she gets this one done. And if it's on the feet, she does have that reach advantage to kind of hide behind. I think she gets it done either way, though, by finish, submission. Moving on up the card, Joe Solecki versus Jared Gordon. I'm going to be going with Joe Solecki here. I think he's a good favourite to take. Jared Gordon is good, but moving back down, or moving up to the lightweight division because he can't make 145. He has a big size advantage at 145 over a lot of opponents. And he doesn't make weight as well. And I believe that's why he beat Danny Chavez. Because Danny Chavez was out there looking for sweeps. He had butterfly hooks, butterfly guard a couple of times, looking to sweep Jared Gordon off of him. But Jared Gordon just seemed a little bit too heavy Mr. 5 pounds overweight. So I feel like at lightweight, he's not going to have that strength advantage. He's not going to have that size advantage that has carried him in certain bouts in his career. And I think Joe Solecki is going to be the guy out there, a little bit more full for the weight class. He's got a reach advantage 2.5 inches if it is on the feet. I don't quite trust Joe Solecki's stand-up so much, but I think watching him out-grapple Jim Miller in certain moments, Jim Miller still fucking got it. Like, even against Roosevelt Roberts, he falls down, gets the armbar, immediately snaps Roosevelt Roberts' arm in the first round. I know Roosevelt Roberts isn't really that good, but Jim Miller can still beat young guys that are getting into MMA. And Joe Solecki proved with a win over Jim Miller that he can take on the veterans of the division, out-grapple a guy like Jim Miller, control him on the ground in certain moments, and showed decent stand-up in there as well that was looking like it was improving. He's taken some time off. He's the younger guy, 28 years of age. I think he's going to have improved, and I trust him to go out there and beat Jared Gordon by unanimous decision, 29-28. Maybe Jared Gordon does get a round off of him, but I don't think it's going to go well for Jared Gordon. Plus, chins are a big thing in this sport, and Jared Gordon's chin doesn't seem too good. He's been KO'd by Charles Oliveira. He got KO'd by Joaquim Silva as well. I'm trying to remember another guy that he got KO'd by because it did happen again in his career. KO'd by Charles Oliveira, KO'd by Joaquim Silva, KO'd by Diego Ferreira. This is like 3 of his last 6 fights. He's been laid out in fights really badly as well, by shots that don't even seem that big. The Diego Ferreira KO was pretty good. The Joaquim Silva KO was light work in the 3rd round, and he went out against a cage like Alistair Overeem against Bigfoot Silva. Charles Oliveira landed a really pathetic-looking right hand, kind of, and down goes Jared Gordon. Don't trust the chin. I'm going to be going with Joe Solecki here in any way he wants to, but I think it's going to be a decision win, 29-28, and a bit of a scrap. But I trust Joe Solecki to get this one done. Moving on to the main card. Alexander Hernandez versus Mike Breeden. I'm going to be going with Alexander Hernandez, 1st round KO here. I think this is going to be a bit like the Grutschmacher bout. Even in hindsight, the Thiago Moises bout, even though you shouldn't really be losing to Thiago Moises, you could arguably say that Hernandez did just a little bit worse than Bobby Green against Thiago Moises, because I thought Bobby Green clearly won the fight with Thiago Moises. I thought Moises barely edged out Alexander Hernandez in their fight. I know Hernandez complained because he was up on stats in the first 2 rounds, but I think Moises landed the more impactful shots that made up for that. I think Hernandez is around that top 25 level of the UFC right now. I don't think he's quite ready for the rankings, and maybe he does need to make some improvements, but he's still 28 years of age. He's going to be making those improvements. I like that he travels around to different gyms. I've seen him at Team Calbon a couple of times, just trying to get a look in there in the stand-up. I think Alexander Hernandez is going to go out there, get a signature win like he did against Chris Grutschmacher. I think he thrives on these moments where his confidence is at an all-time high. When he gets put up against a test, like a Donald Cerrone, and he's expected to win, or a Thiago Moises, and I believe he was a slight favourite there as well, he doesn't seem to do too good. But when it's up against, and there's no real pressure on him, there's nothing really for him to lose, he's going in there against a short-notice opponent, I think he'll get a KO here. I think his confidence is going to be sky-high. Guy KO'd Beneil Dariush at the end of the day. You know what I mean? And that Chris Grutschmacher KO was an amazing KO. Mike Breeden has been KO'd before in his career. He trains at Glory MMA, which is a good gym, but he has been taking on some absolute cans in his career to get to 10-3. And I don't like the look of that whatsoever, in all honesty. Like, 12-8 his last fight. Nick Compton. Isn't that the fucking guy that runs Jake Paul's old fucking Disney Channel sit? England is my city. He beat Nick Compton. That can't be that. Oh, it's just a popular name, I guess, in America. But that's the only fucking Nick Compton I can think of in my fucking brain. Team 10, bitch. Either way, I'm gonna go with Alexander Hernandez by 1st round KO. There's not really much to break down here. We don't know much about Mike Breeden's game. He's beaten absolute cans. We don't know if he's ready for the big leagues. We know that he's lost to Anthony Romero, who is 7-0. We know that he lost to Ivy Nixon, who was 3-2 by KO in the 1st round. I'm going to be going with Alexander Hernandez by 1st round KO. Moving on up the card. Aspen Ladd versus Macy Chiasson. I'm going to be going with Aspen Ladd here. I think she's got a grappling advantage over Macy Chiasson. Macy Chiasson might have a bit of a stand-up advantage, and she's very awkward to fight in that division as well, because she's got a 72-inch reach at 5'9", which is ridiculous when you think about it for a female anyway. Aspen Lad's 66-inch reach at 5'5", but Aspen Lad is so scrappy, so tough, big for the bantamweight division, big boned for the bantamweight division, very strong in the clinch areas as well. Beat Yana Kunitskaya, which is actually a pretty good win in hindsight because Yana Kunitskaya is actually kind of good. Beat Ketlin Vieira in the bantamweight division. But I'm going to be going with Aspen Lad getting this one done, out-grappling Macy Chiasson against the cage. Macy Chiasson had some real trouble against Marion Renault. Not bad trouble, but noticeable trouble in the grappling against Marion Renault. Marion Renault got her down twice, controlled her on the ground, landed some good shots. I think Aspen Lad maybe losing the stand-up in the early 3 minutes of the round, barely, getting outlanded by Macy Chiasson with straight shots on the outside. But I think eventually she's going to get it against the cage, grab a hold of her, spin her around, take her down, land some big ground and pound shots at the end of each round and secure herself a unanimous decision win over Macy Chiasson. I'll call it 29-28. Maybe Chiasson wins the first round, but then Aspen Lad starts to wear on her against the cage, starts to get more takedowns, lands more effective ground and pound shots. And I trust that she has that mindset. In female MMA, it's very difficult to tell if someone actually wants to win. I know it sounds crazy, but it is genuinely difficult to tell if someone actually wants to win a fight. Watching her coach get in her brain and tell her to go out there and get a finish against Kunitskaya, and she went out there and did. It's like that switch that you have that not many have in that women's bantamweight division. And I think Aspen Lad's going to get this one done by unanimous decision, 29-28. Moving on up the card, Misha Cirkunov versus Krzysztof Jotko. I'm going to be going with Jotko here over Misha Cirkunov. I just don't trust Misha Cirkunov in this fight. Jotko's got good stand-up. I know he got beat by Sean Strickland and made to look like he didn't have good stand-up. And he also got KO'd by Brad Tavares. But it's mainly like the only route of success that I see Misha Cirkunov ever having is grappling. And Jotko's got really good grappling. He rarely ever gets out-grappled, and his wins over like Marc-Andre Barriault, for example, have aged really, really well. You know, Marc-Andre Barriault's on a 2-fight win streak against dangerous up-and-comers or contenders, Dalchilungi and Bula, and also Abu Azaitar. I'm trusting Krzysztof Jotko here. I think he's going to shut down the grappling of Misha Cirkunov. Even if Misha Cirkunov fucking makes weight, I don't think his chin is going to be okay. This is a 20-pound difference for Misha Cirkunov here. He is not a small light heavyweight in the first place. He was just taking on bigger light heavyweights like Johnny Walker, Ryan Spann. I'm going to be going with Krzysztof Jotko here. I think he's going to get a standing TKO against the cage after like stuffing a takedown of Cirkunov. Maybe he reverses it, lands an elbow and a couple of punches of combinations up against the cage on Misha Cirkunov. I'm going to call like a second round TKO for Krzysztof Jotko. I don't like the move of getting KO'd brutally in your last 2 out of 3 fights and then moving down 20 pounds of a division. Stupidity from Misha Cirkunov, but he hates seeing his children happy, I guess. He just does not make correct career decisions. He trained 8 weeks against Ryan Spann to go out there and trade fucking right hands and never shoot a single fucking takedown. Don't trust the fucking degeneracy in this Misha Cirkunov's brain. I'm going with Krzysztof Jotko. He was whooping up on Uriah Hall before getting slept later on. He's usually winning before losing, and I don't see Misha Cirkunov getting a surprise KO win out of nowhere. Cirkunov does have good grappling, but it's like surprise grappling. Like when Krut went to the ground with Cirkunov, he was winning moments, he was landing some ground and pound, and then all of a sudden a Peruvian necktie out of nowhere comes out. That's not going to happen 9 times out of 10. I'm going with Jotko, he's more consistently okay. Cirkunov is sometimes thick as shit and lacking a chromosome, or extra chromosome, maybe he has one to spare. I'm going with Jotko by TKO at the end of the second round. Moving on up the card, Alex Oliveira versus Niko Price. Niko Price. Got to go with Niko Price here. Alex Oliveira. I love Alex Oliveira. I've been a big fan of Alex Oliveira throughout his career. I think people know that. And I'm a big fan of Niko Price. This is going to be a tough one to watch one of these guys lose because they both put it all on the line. I like Niko Price's cardio advantage here. If there's one thing that we've noticed in Alex Oliveira's career that is quite a bad habit that seems to continue to happen in certain fights, he seems to always lose third rounds. Badly sometimes as well. Against Yancy Medeiros, his body basically gave up on him in that third round as well. And you look at his recent career, Gunnar Nelson in the second round by submission, started to fade in that fight as he got beaten up a little bit. I think Alex Oliveira, I mean, of course, he survived a fucking grenade explosion, if you remember that story. If you haven't, look it up. It's a cool story. I think he's used all of his tough guy points, in all honesty. He does have a good win over Condit. That's a decent win to have. But he doesn't seem to be beating those top decently good guys in the welterweight division, and I think Niko Price is one of those decently good guys. I know he kind of got fucked over against Dalby by them standing the fight up, but even then he started to fade in the third round. Dalby won the third round because of him fading in the third round, other than that weird referee decision that went on that stood the fight up when Oliveira was on top. But he started to fade in that third round. Nicholas Dalby landed some good ground and pound shots at the end and won himself that fight. Even against Mike Perry, he started to feel the damage. His toes started breaking. His nose is always broken in fights, it seems. Every fucking fight, his nose is shattered. I feel like Alex Oliveira is not got enough toughness left like Niko Price does. And I think Niko Price is going to go out there, out tough guy Oliveira. And also recently in Oliveira's bouts, it seems as though his chin ain't quite there either. Shavkat Rakhmonov rocked him really badly in the first round, put in a guillotine choke, finished him. Randy Brown cracked him with a good shot, rocked him badly, finished him afterwards as well, got a knockdown there and a submission. I'm going to go with Niko Price. I think it's going to be a great scrap for the first 2 rounds. Then I can see Alex Oliveira starting to break down a little bit. Maybe Price has got a swollen eye and like blood all over him, and Oliveira's got blood all over him, a shattered nose, a swollen eye. But I trust Niko Price in that moment in the third round to be the one pouring it on Alex Oliveira, because I think he's just a little bit tougher than Oliveira. He's bigger than Oliveira. I think he's going to go out there and get it done. Plus, Niko Price, I believe, does have the jiu-jitsu advantage and the grappling advantage. Niko Price gets this one done. Plus, he has that Niko Price ability to just KO you out of nowhere. I'm going with Niko Price, TKO in the third round. Looked great against Pirrello in his last bout, chasing him down at the end of the third. I think Oliveira has a similar looking fight. 1-1 after the first 2. Oliveira might win the first, Price wins the second. Price starts fucking piecing him up in the third and finishes him. Moving on up the card, Kevin Holland versus Kyle Daukaus. I'm going to be going with Kevin Holland here. I trust him to get this one done. Kyle Daukaus is good. A good prospect, looked okay against Brendan Allen, but I'm definitely going to be going with Kevin Holland. He's got a 5-inch reach advantage. I mean, Kevin Holland seems to have a reach advantage over literally everyone in the middleweight division, maybe bar Adesanya. Like, he's got that weird reach advantage, 6'3", 81-inch reach. Like, for example, I'm 77-inch reach, like, almost 6'3", so he's got like a good 4 inches of reach on me, and we're about the same height. So Kevin Holland, I don't see him winning this one. No, I do. Kyle Daukaus, I don't see him winning this one whatsoever. Didn't look too good against Phil Hawes in his last bout. Didn't look like he was taking shots too well in that fight either. And just didn't look like he had great fight IQ or stand-up. Am I wrong? Like, he got pretty badly dominated by Phil Hawes. And he just didn't really have anything on the feet. He looked a little bit awkward. I know he looked good against Brendan Allen in his debut and had a couple of good scrambling moments. But again, Allen dropped him, beat him in that fight quite convincingly. Close fight, but he won it very clearly. He beat Dustin Stoltzfus, but that win has not aged well because Dustin Stoltzfus had fucking nothing against Rodolfo Vieira. Nothing. He got out-jabbed. He's a striker, Dustin Stoltzfus. A striker got out-jabbed by Rodolfo Vieira, a jiu-jitsu expert. Like, I don't think Kyle Daukaus is going to win this one. I think it's a great bounce back fight for Kevin Holland. I don't know why this fight has been made. Well, I do know. They want Kevin Holland to win and get back on the win column so they can promote him and move him up the rankings. That's what they want. They don't want to lose Kevin Holland. They put so much promotion into him. He's a big name for where he's at in his career. I think they just want Kevin Holland to win, and that's what they've done. They've set up a Kevin Holland win. So I'm going to go with Kevin Holland. If Phil Hawes can rock Daukaus in certain moments, I believe that Kevin Holland's going to be able to get the finishing blow. I'll say stuffs a couple of takedowns, gets a late first round TKO. Kevin Holland gets this one done in the co-main event. Jiu-jitsu, I think he's got good jiu-jitsu on the ground. Daukaus is not really a dominant ground fighter either, or a great wrestler. Couldn't really take down Phil Hawes in their fight. Was having him against the cage, but didn't really do anything with it. Got taken down by Phil Hawes in their fight, and Phil Hawes is like a guy who picked up MMA a bit late. 0-7 on takedowns against Phil Hawes. I don't think that Daukaus is going to be able to get the grappling going, and even still, Holland has addressed that. He's had to address it. He's had to go and train with Johnny Hendricks, train at AKA. Even though people said he left AKA a bit early and he should have stayed at AKA, he went there for like weeks on end and drilled wrestling over and over and over again. I trust him to make the improvements, and I don't see any way Daukaus beats him on the feet. So I'm going to go with Kevin Holland by second round, KO, out cold. Great finish, back in the mix, looking for big names in the middleweight division. Kevin Holland gets this one done. Moving on to the main event, Thiago Santos versus Johnny Walker. I'm going to go with Thiago Santos. But it hurts me. It really hurts me. Walker has that ability to just be so fucking autistic that he somehow wins. But I just don't like what I'm seeing from Walker's chin. And that's the elephant in the room here. Like, Thiago Santos has got a really nasty check hook. A really nasty check hook. It's one of his best abilities. He flatlined Jan Blachowicz with a check hook and finished him off. He dropped Glover Teixeira multiple times with a check hook in their fight as well. Johnny Walker leaves himself open for that so much. Corey Anderson caught him coming in. Ryan Spann caught him with multiple check hooks in their fight. Multiple check hooks. In the first round, I think it happened about 3 different times that Johnny Walker got put down by a big shot from Ryan Spann, and it was all that counter hook as Walker came rushing in. I think Santos, that's his bread and butter. Like, maybe he's a bit different now because he seemed a little bit gun-shy against Alexander Rakic. But I'll say this. People put it down to him not having the same legs anymore. He looked good against Teixeira in bursts on the feet. Like, he was doing good against Teixeira. He lost the second round, but he was winning the third round before losing. He won the first round because he dropped Teixeira. Dropped Teixeira again in the third round. Like, he did better against Teixeira than Anthony Smith. Like, I think Santos has still kind of got it. Maybe he's never going to be the same guy that went to a split decision with John Jones or KO'd Jan Blachowicz. But, I think he's still got it. And I'm starting to believe that Rakic is just a bit different because people seem to say, why didn't that guy do anything? Why did he look like his legs were disabled against Rakic? Maybe it's because Rakic is kicking his legs. And Rakic seems to destroy people's legs. Against Anthony Smith, Rakic threw 3 leg kicks in the first minute of the fight and Smith could no longer walk. That was it. Smith's leg was completely done for the rest of the fight and Rakic was just dominating him the rest of the time. Even against Santos, couple of good leg kicks from Rakic early and Santos completely shut down his offense. But still a close fight with Rakic. I thought Rakic edged the first round, clearly won the second round, but he lost the third. I know some scorecards said 30-27 Rakic. Santos clearly won the third round against Alexander Rakic. And that's something to say. You're winning the third round against a guy who could go on and become champion of the light heavyweight division, who dominated Anthony Smith and didn't lose a single round to him. I'm going to go with Thiago Santos, catching Johnny Walker rushing in with a check hook, putting him down, finishing him off. Walker's got a 6-inch reach advantage. He's massive compared to Santos. And he's younger, and he's had a year off since his last fight to prepare and train. I'm worried, because he can make it happen. Walker can just make it happen. I don't see Santos shooting dumb, stupid takedowns like Ryan Spann was, because, let's be real, Ryan Spann is a little bit brain dead. Why were you lingering on that single leg against Johnny Walker while he rains down shots behind your ear? Stupidest decision making maybe ever in a fight. Not ever, but in the mix, of course. And Ryan Spann didn't look good against Smith at all. He looked like he was fucking drunk out there. Like, I'm going to go with Thiago Santos here. I can so see it. Johnny Walker rushing in, lifting up one leg to go for like a high kick to like a Superman punch or something wild. And as he's on one leg, going for a front kick, Santos just big hooks, land on Walker, put him down, big hammer fists. Thiago Santos gets it done. No hammer fists. You know what I think is going to happen here? I think we're going to see a controlled demolition of Johnny Walker. Thiago Santos catches him with a check hook. And the way that Walker gets KO'd is what I'm going to try and predict here. I think he slumps into himself and just goes, ugh, and he's like looking around like Manoa was when Thiago Santos KO'd him. But that fight was messy. But I think he's more composed. He still has his power, still has his speed. We saw that against Teixeira. He just had his leg kicked by Rakic, and you seem to not do anything after that happens in fights typically. So, I'm going with Thiago Santos by KO. But I don't mind the Walker's chances as an underdog. And I'm rooting for Johnny Walker because Thiago Santos is the older guy. Walker's the younger guy. It'd be cool to have Walker back up the top of the division. Imagine Yuri Prohaska versus Johnny Walker for the belt. That would be amazing. So I'm going to be going with Thiago Santos here. Walker's first time in a 5-rounder as well. Santos went 5 rounds with John Jones on one leg. I trust Santos, but I'm worried. But Walker has been KO'd, I believe, in every single one of his losses other than one. He lost to Nikita Krylov by decision, KO'd by Corey Anderson rushing in, smacked around by Ryan Spann for rushing in, KO'd by Enrique Silva for rushing in 18 seconds into the first round, KO'd or submitted by Cliton Abreu in the second round, and KO'd by Wagner Prado in the second round as well rushing in. I'm definitely going to be going with Thiago Santos. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Click that button up there. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye.